Hello everybody, welcome to my 1 week review of owning a Motocompacto scooter made by Honda. First off, I gotta say it's still running. In some of the Facebook groups, these things are completely dead already, so knock on wood, but it seems like I got a good one so far. If you haven't done so already, go back and watch my first Motocompacto video where I actually picked it up, explained the buying process, and had my initial thoughts. Now that I've been driving it for a week, I'm a lot more familiar with it, so we're going to talk about that today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the price. I paid $50 over asking price. The MSRP is $995. I paid $1,045 just because I got one of the first 5 at the dealership. And it was one of those things where I just had to have it because I wanted to be the first one in my area to have one, possibly even in New York State. So I made the 500-mile round trip journey to Ohio to pick one up. I do not recommend paying over MSRP. Wait until there's a lot more availability at the dealers when you can get them for $995 or less. It's really not worth over $1,000. It reminds me of when I was a kid. I had a little electric scooter with a seat, and those things were like $200. And it folded up into a lot smaller package than this. Just the handlebars folded flat. You could stand or sit, and that thing was pretty much the same as this, only a lot less money. The second thing we're going to talk about is the ride quality. It's not good at all. Unless you're on a smooth road or parking lot, or if you work in a warehouse with a nice new concrete floor. If that's the case, then this thing is amazing. But when you hit the sidewalks with bumps and cracks, it does have solid tires and no suspension. So it hurts when you hit bumps, but it's doable. I've hit a few big bumps at full throttle, 15 miles an hour. And the more you get used to it, the better you become. Going straight through the bumpy potholes and cracks is all right. It's really when you're on a turn and you hit like a little rock or a crack and the front jumps. That's when it gets scary. Luckily, I haven't fell yet, but I do anticipate it at some point, going around the corner and tire skips over a little tiny pebble. I can see myself wiping out then. Now, moving on from the ride is the seat. This is the most uncomfortable seat I've ever sat in. It's good for about 5 minutes, but as I'll explain in a little bit, I just did range testing yesterday, where I was full throttle from 100% until 5% when it shut off. And after about 5 minutes, it gets really uncomfortable, at least for me. And I had to keep adjusting side to side, forward, backwards. And it just is not comfortable, and you can't really stand up with these foot pegs. The scooter is definitely designed to sit down. Moving on to part 3, which is the range. I did some range testing, and go check that out. It's in my YouTube shorts. It's not under a regular video, it's under the shorts. I did 2 tests. The first test was in mode 1. The second test was in mode 2. Mode 1, you're supposed to be able to go 12 miles. I only went 9.42. That's 2.5 miles short. Now it was about 40 degrees, but the block I did was very level in elevation, and I was full throttle the whole time, not making any tight turns. So it really should have been up there, closer to 10, 11 miles, even 12. Mode 2, it used the battery a lot faster. That's supposed to go 11 miles. It was out in 8.28 miles, which is about 2 3/4 of a mile short of the estimated range. I would expect these numbers to be a little bit better in the summer, but it's winter time, it's freezing cold here, and electric vehicles never do the best when it's cold out. So hopefully come summer, I'll have enough range to actually be able to make it to work. Because right now I'm about 8.5 miles away, and if I ran it in mode 1, it would take forever to get there. If I ran it in mode 2, I would probably not make it, especially since it's a lot of stop and go driving. And I know I can tell when I'm accelerating in this thing, it uses a lot of juice to get up to speed. Because it's only a half a horsepower, and it's just giving it all it's got for a long time until you're up to speed. Now, mode 1 claims that it maxes out at 10 miles an hour. However, it goes 11, then the motor will cut out. In mode 1, for a guy like me, you can tell the scooter's not working that hard because it just is giving it a little bit of power to maintain that 11 miles an hour. Now in mode 2, that's 15 miles an hour. It will go 16. If I held it up in the air, full throttle, it would go 16. And if it's a slight downhill for me, it'll go 16. If it's a lighter person, it'll just go 16 on level pavement. But for me, anything that's level or a slight uphill, it's giving all it's got to keep it at 15 miles an hour. And it never really limits power, it's just full power all the time, just to keep me there. Again, which is a reason why mode 1 lasts longer, because it's not giving full power all the time. I did notice in my range test, mode 1, the whole entire time, it was able to do 11 miles an hour consistently. Mode 2, it started out at like 15, 16, it would fluctuate. Then as it got to about 60% battery, it really would not go above 14 miles an hour. And then as it got lower, it wouldn't go over 12, 13 miles an hour. Not because that's what the limit was, it still would have gone 16 with a lighter person, or if I lifted it up in the air. That's just all it could push me. It could not get over like 13 miles an hour towards the end. It still did have good acceleration if I were to be driving it with a low battery and give it throttle from the stop. It would get up to speed, probably not as quick as at 100, but I did notice that top end power really dropped off as the battery dropped down in charge. Once it gets to 5%, the scooter will shut off, the screen will remain on, the lights will remain on, but it won't give the motor any more power. Now charging times, actually as advertised, takes exactly 3.5 hours to go from a dead 5% to a fully charged 100%. So good job Honda for getting that right. Now let's talk about the odometer. In the Motocompacto app on your phone, it'll show you things like battery percent. You can pair the Bluetooth with the scooter to your phone, then you enter in the serial number, but you're able to access battery percentage, battery health, gives you like a degradation, how healthy the battery is. You're able to look at if it's in mode 1 or mode 2. I'm not sure if in the future they'll let you select the default mode 2, because right now it defaults to mode 1, but you're able to view that in the app. You're also able to view if the motor is locked. Now originally I thought, this is great, I can lock the scooter from my phone so nobody will be able to drive it away. But all that lock is, from what I can tell, is if your wheel is not engaged all the way back, there'll be a little lock symbol on the screen, so it won't go. I think that's not a lock for security, it's a lock for safety. Again, if you pull the brake handle a little bit, cuts power, and I believe the lock comes on. But the odometer is very, very inaccurate. It goes up at a rate which is way higher than you drive. For example, right now on the scooter, had this a week, I maybe charged it like 6 times, 5 times. The odometer shows 614 miles. That's a lot. Now I know that's not, oh maybe they tested it and it had 450 miles. No. When I first got the app, it took a day for it to actually start working. And then it showed 46 miles, I believe. So I thought, maybe they test drove it first, that's why it has so many miles, but it goes up way faster. So my mode 1 test, when I started, had 332 miles. When I ended, it had 481 miles. That's 149 miles the odometer went up in 9.42 miles GPS tracked. There's not even like 100% correlation where if you went 9.42 miles, the odometer went up 94.2 miles, nothing like that. It's went from 9.42 actually went up 149. So they better fix that, because I wanted to put actual miles on this thing and calculate how far it would go before things start breaking. But it's going to be hard to do that if it's showing I almost have 1,000 miles on it. A couple other things to note I noticed in 1 week of driving this. The kickstand is either too short or it's positioned in the wrong place. It's a lot of times, like right now, this is level ground. It doesn't really matter which way this is turned. If I push this a little bit, it starts falling. So it's either in the wrong spot or it's too short, because there's a lot of times where if I'm outside, I throw the kickstand down. You have to spend time positioning it just the right way so it either doesn't fall backwards or fall onto itself. And I don't want that to happen because I just paid $1,000 plus for it. I guess another thing to notice, pretty cheap build quality on these panels. You can almost squeeze these together if you wanted to. Okay, another drivability issue I see is the headlight. The taillight is great. It's LED, it's bright. People can see you from a long ways away. It's got a bright brake light, that's fine. The headlight, it flashes during the day, which is good. It's aimed up high, which is good during the day because it actually shines into the eyes of drivers so they can see you. But at nighttime, the headlight is pointing way too high. It's to the point where if it's dark out, you can't see what's in front of you. And with no suspension, you really always need to be watching what's directly ahead of you for like any little bumps and shake violently every time you hit one. And I'm afraid you hit like something 2-3 inches tall, which a normal bike would just glide right over. This thing might flip forward. I don't know what would happen just because the whole center of gravity is super high. But I do wish the headlight was either adjustable. From what I see now, it's just there and you can't really adjust it. Or if they could alter the light pattern to make it come down on the road a little bit, that would be very helpful. I've had a few people ride this that are used to e-bikes. They said a couple things this is missing: water bottle holders, phone holder. Because when I was riding and I was trying to watch my battery percentage to see how it correlated with the bars on the screen, all I could really do is put my phone in the bottom of the compartment here. And every time I hit a bump, it would throw it up in the air and flip it over. So if there could be like a magnetic mount that you could easily attach that to, that would be good. Also, USB or USB-C phone charger port, which I know it would take away from the battery life, but sometimes people would rather have their phone charged than their scooter. Something else I noted, when it was plugged into the wall, I tried to go, it still turns on, but it will not power the wheel. So I was thinking it would be nice if they would have had it where you could be charging and riding at the same time. So if you had an auxiliary battery pack, you could stuff in here and charge while you ride. So you could go a little bit more than 9 miles on a charge at a slow speed. Now for uphill power, it's not really there. If you're lightweight, like 150 pounds, you might be able to make it up a relatively steep hill, but you're probably gonna have to zigzag. If you're heavier, like me, over 200 pounds, it's not going uphill. If it's a slight uphill, maybe at like 3-4 miles an hour, but don't expect much. Downhill, it'll go. I've had it over 25, and once you hit 25 miles an hour, it goes into error mode. And when you do that, the power does stop. You can hear the motor stop at 16, but it'll keep coasting faster than that. Again, once you hit like 26, it just goes into an error message. It doesn't show the speed anymore. The brake is a rear drum brake, and for a heavy person flying down a hill, it's not that good. If you want to be able to stop, that's not going to stop. It'll skid, so you have to just regulate the pressure, and it does not slow down very fast with just that back brake. You just gotta ease into it so it doesn't skid and you stop at a decent time. Now, one time, this only happened once in my 600 miles of driving it. something happened. It was a problem. I was making a U-turn. When I went to give it the gas, somehow the motor applied a brake because I heard a loud noise from the front, and it slowed itself down for about a second, almost to a stop, and then it took off, and the whole time I was giving it full throttle. I don't know if that was just a glitch, a one-time thing. I'll be paying attention to it. But just one thing to note. Now, a good thing is, apparently these have a 1-year warranty. And a few people in the group that have had problems with it, they called the dealership. The dealership has no clue how to fix these things. So they said, bring it in and we'll give you another one once we get them in stock. So it says it's water resistant. Maybe I will take it in the rain. I just don't want to ruin it. I've tried to drive it in the grass. It does not go. It just comes to a stop. The tire doesn't spin. It just doesn't have enough power. I had a lighter person take it in the grass, and he did fine, but it only did about 4 miles an hour. So this is really an on-pavement only machine. Now on the Facebook group, I have seen it. So far though, the handlebars are holding up good. The seat, although it's uncomfortable, still looks like it's brand new. Everything folds up as it should. And the charger port has a rubber boot. I can never get it to fit back on right. Always when I'm driving, it always falls back off. That concludes my 1-week review of the Honda Motocompacto. And as always, you meet the nicest people on a Honda. Come on, go to mode 2. What the heck? Well, now it's not going into mode 2. Oh, there it goes. One more thing. It's very quiet to ride. The motor is very quiet. The brake is super loud. Thank you for watching.